Have you ever found yourself in a situation where a simple question like, "Did you remember to buy the milk?" somehow spirals into a full-blown debate? You might wonder, am I overreacting? Or why does my partner get so defensive? But what if there's something deeper at play? These confusing arguments could be driven by something you've likely never heard of: meta-emotions. Understanding meta-emotions could be the secret to breaking this cycle, leading to more peace and connection in your relationship. Welcome to Psychology Unpacked. I'm Cameron, a registered psychologist, here to help you understand yourself and your relationship better. Today, we're diving into meta-emotions, the hidden emotional reactions that might be fueling your most confusing conflicts. What exactly are meta-emotions? Think of them as reactions to your own feelings, a second layer of emotions adding commentary on whatever you're experiencing. Imagine you're feeling sad, that's the primary emotion. But then another layer kicks in, and you think, why am I sad over something so small? Or, I need to get it together. Suddenly, you're not just sad, you're also frustrated about being sad. What's key to understand is that some meta-emotion approaches actually help us to understand our primary emotions better, helps us give us insights into our deeper needs and dreams. But more often than not, they make everything more intense and confusing, like trying to see through a fog. Acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT, has a great way of framing this. They call it the struggle switch. Imagine having a switch in the back of our brain. When it's switched on, we struggle with our emotions. So we might be feeling anxious, but then we might be worried that we'll never stop feeling anxious. We might feel frustrated over having to always deal with this anxiety. This often leads to spiraling and leads to a complex mess of emotions. Have you ever found yourself doing this? What's fascinating is that these meta-emotions can help us navigate our emotions more effectively or trap us in a cycle of self-judgment. Where did this idea of meta-emotions come from? It has been discussed throughout research for decades now, but it was formalized in the 1990s thanks to John Gottman and his colleagues. Their focus was understanding how meta-emotions changed the relationship between children and parents. What they found was very significant. Some parents treat emotions, good or bad, as chances to connect and to learn. They acknowledge their child's feelings and offer guidance on handling them, helping their kids feel understood and supported. On the other hand, some parents feel very uncomfortable with emotions and tend to downplay or dismiss them in themselves and their children. Without meaning to, they teach their children that emotions are to be hidden or ignored. These meta-emotion approaches radically change a child's upbringing, shaping how they understand and manage their own emotions well into adulthood. What is interesting is that Gottman's research found that it doesn't just shape kids, it also plays a fundamental role in relationships too. When both partners are tuned into their emotional reactions and the reactions of their partner, this leads to better communication and understanding. By respecting each other's emotional needs, they create a sense of safety and closeness that helps their relationship thrive. We've unpacked what meta-emotions are, as well as where they come from. Let's explore the different approaches people have. Think of these approaches as your default emotional setting. Sounds boring until you realize they shape the entire dynamic of the relationship. Focus up and see which one sounds like you. First up, we have the acceptor. This approach treats emotions as valuable and natural. Acceptors believe they are an essential part of the human experience, and they see them as opportunities for connection and growth. Acceptor types create emotional safe places. They encourage others to share, listen openly, and validate their emotions without trying to downplay or to fix them. Next, we have the minimizer, sometimes called the dismisser. If you've ever heard someone say, "It's not that big of a deal," or "Just cheer up, you'll feel better," you've probably seen this style in action. Minimizers tend to believe that emotions are best kept small and manageable. Their philosophy is simple. Emotions can be disruptive, so why let them take over? They're not necessarily being harsh. They feel it's generally better to move past emotions quickly. While minimizers think that they're keeping things calm, their downplaying of emotions often leaves people feeling dismissed. Over time, this can create emotional distance in the relationship. Now, let's talk about the fixer, my original style. Fixers believe emotions are like problems. They exist to be solved. When someone shares their feeling, a fixer immediately thinks, "How can I solve this for you?" They'll jump in with advice or practical steps, saying things like, "Have you tried this?" This approach usually comes from a good place. Fixers genuinely care and want to help. Their problem-solving mindset can actually be really useful when people are looking for solutions. But that's where fixers get it wrong sometimes. Emotions don't always need fixing. Sometimes people just want to be heard, not handed a to-do list. Fixers might unintentionally send the message that the other person's emotions is inconvenient or something to be dealt with, rather than understood. Finally, we have the flutter. Flutters often feel overwhelmed by their emotion, both in themselves and others. They often have core beliefs such as "I can't cope" or "emotions are too much to handle." This sensitivity is an incredible gift. It often makes them deeply empathic. However, paired with beliefs such as "emotions are dangerous" is what leads to overwhelm. In these moments, Flutters might shut down, lash out, avoid this situation, all to escape the emotional intensity. Out of the four, it's no surprise that the acceptor approach is the best for emotional resilience and creating deeper and more meaningful relationships. The good news is that these approaches aren't set in stone. No matter where you currently land, whether you're a fixer, a minimizer, or a flutter, we can all learn to approach emotions with curiosity and compassion. It can be a difficult journey, but it's not something that's just going to benefit you and how you feel, but your relationships as well. Share in the comments how these approaches show up in your relationships. I'd love to hear. We know the four main meta-emotion approaches now: the acceptor, the minimizer, the fixer, the flutter. But what do these look like in real life, and especially when they clash? Having different meta-emotion approaches in a relationship is like cooking two separate different things. Your partner's cooking a lovely chocolate cake and you're cooking lasagna. By the end, you've got a disaster that no one wants to eat. You're both standing there in flour and regret, wondering how it went all so wrong. Let's look at an example. Imagine one person with an acceptor approach who views anger as normal and actually very healthy to express. Meanwhile, their partner might more align with the minimizer or flutter while viewing emotions as dangerous. To them, feeling or expressing anger can lead to guilt or a fear of conflict. This mismatch leads to tension. One person wants to express it while the other person wants to shut it down. Another common example is when one partner is a fixer, seeing sadness as a problem to solve. When their partner feels down, the fixer jumps in and says, "Let's do something that makes you feel better." But the other person might be more of an acceptor and would like to sit or understand their sadness further. This leaves the fixer frustrated that their efforts aren't appreciated and the acceptor feeling invalidated because they weren't looking for a quick fix. When these mismatches happen, it can be very easy for these small emotional moments to spiral out of control. One little comment can lead to cold stares and door slamming for 2 days, with both people wondering, how did we even get here? Recognizing these approaches is the first step to understanding and learning to make a meal that you'll both find delicious. Let's take a moment to consider something important. When your partner says something that doesn't quite land, it doesn't mean they don't care. They are just trying their best in the way that they know how. For example, if you share, "I'm really anxious about my presentation tomorrow," and they respond with, "Don't worry, you'll be fine," they are likely a minimizer. They believe that brushing off anxiety reduces its power because that's what works for them. If they're a fixer, they might jump in with a solution because they see action as the best way to go. And if they're a flutter, they might go quiet or try to escape the situation, not because they don't care, but because they feel overwhelmed and don't know how to cope. The key here is empathy, understanding that your partner's responses isn't about dismissing you. When we stop interpreting these responses as a lack of care and start seeing them as a well-intentioned effort, we can start to shift the dynamic. Now that we hopefully have empathy for our partner's approaches, it's time to take the next step: self-awareness. Understanding ourselves is the foundation to bridging these emotional gaps. You can start by reflecting on a few important questions. 1. How did my family handle emotions when I was growing up? Did they encourage open expression, or were emotions brushed under the rug? What emotions am I most comfortable expressing, and which ones do I tend to hold back? Are there feelings you show freely, like happiness, while others, like sadness, are harder to express? How do you think others should handle their emotions, and how do I react when my partner or friends express strong feelings like anger or sadness? Do you expect others to move on quickly, or do you believe in giving space to allow them to process? Taking the time to reflect on these questions and share them with your partner can be a game changer. It helps you both understand the emotional scripts you usually follow, often without realizing it. So now we know the 4 emotional approaches, we have some empathy, we have some self-awareness. Now we want to dive into the practical strategies. Number 1 is emotional coaching, decoding the secret language of feelings. This is all about understanding you and your partner's emotional language. Here's how to practice it. Pay attention to how emotions show up for the both of you. Is it your tone, your body language, the thoughts in your mind? Recognizing these steps is a crucial first step. 2, once you notice the emotion, try labeling it without judgment. For example, say, "You seem really disappointed," rather than, "Why are you so mad about that?" And number 3, we want to look beneath the surface. Every emotion hides a need. Anger might mean that someone felt disrespected, and sadness could indicate they need connection. Take a moment to consider what your partner might really need from you in that moment. When you practice emotional coaching, emotions aren't these confusing puzzles, but opportunities for connection. Over time, this will build empathy, trust, and a deeper relationship with your partner. The second strategy is creating an emotional safe haven. Emotional coaching is about decoding emotions, whereas the emotional safe place is the ability to express them freely. Think of it like a cozy fort for your relationship. Here's how. Validate first, solve later. When your partner shares something, resist the urge to fix it or dismiss it. Acknowledge their feelings with phrases like, "I can see why you feel that way." This can be a fun opportunity to connect, these spill the tea sessions where we can share the frustrations at work or how a family member might have upset us. You can work with your partner to develop a cue for these conversations, such as, "I just need to talk, no advice, just ears." This emotional trust is foundational for a relationship and allows for greater intimacy. Isn't that a relationship that we all want? The third practical strategy is these rituals of connection, these small moments that do matter. Rituals of connection are like watering your garden, small, consistent actions that lead to greatness over time. The best part? They don't need to be complicated. Here are a few ideas. After work check-in. Spend 10 minutes after work to share highlights, frustrations, or just enjoy a laugh. It's a simple transition from work mode to us mode. During dinner, take turns sharing one highlight of the day and one thing that you're grateful for. During the weekend, picking a small, enjoyable activity for the both of you, whether it's a walk or watching your favorite TV show. The beauty of these rituals is the consistency. These small, intentional moments that show you why you're still together. So, meta emotions might sound complicated, but at their core, it's about understanding these deeper layers of how we understand our own emotions and the emotions of others. Here's a quick challenge for you. Pick one of the strategies that we discussed today and try it out. Maybe reflect on your own meta-emotion approaches through journaling, or have a discussion with your partner about theirs. When you try it, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories. The next time a simple comment spirals into a misunderstanding, take a pause and a step back and consider the meta-emotions at play. This moment of awareness could be the turning point for a greater relationship and a deeper connection. If this video gave you value, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Psychology Unpacked for more insights like this. And if you know someone who could benefit from these ideas, share it with them. This could be the conversation starter they needed. Until next time, stay curious. Appreciation isn't fixed.